Welcome to the Good Endeavor Short-Term Rental Show. I'm your host, Mark McDaniel, and today I am pumped that we have Blake Rocha on with us. Super inspirational guy, super young, crazy successful, incredible coach, incredible entrepreneur, and I cannot wait for you guys to get to learn more about Blake if you already haven't heard about it. Blake Rocha, after that elaborate introduction, welcome to the show, man.
How we doing? Thanks for having me.
You're definitely welcome, man. I've known members of your family for a little while now, and you and I know each other a little less well, but I'm excited to get to know you more on this podcast. Can you kind of go back in time, like before you were Blake, Mr. 4-8, who has tons and tons of social media followers? Before all that, give us a little background on what maybe childhood looked like, and then how you got into this space.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the best way I can describe childhood was in terms of from like the business perspective is I've always been this hungry entrepreneur kid. I was just looking at a video a few minutes before this podcast started that a friend of mine sent me. It was in early high school. I was a freshman in high school, I believe. And I'm talking to the camera and I'm explaining how I'm going to become a millionaire and how other people need to get on this train, because if they don't, then they're going to miss this opportunity. And it's just always been something that I've been interested in, not just for the money, but I've always had this knack for being a salesman, for creating, for building, for not necessarily the organizational or structural side of things, but always from that creative standpoint as it relates to business. And at the end of the day, it's really come down to marketing as well. Earliest, I'm from Visalia, California, which is about an hour between Bakersfield and Fresno. If you put your finger in the middle of California, it is, it's right there. It's farmland, it's dairies, it's cows. I went to a small school called Central Valley Christian, graduated with 60 kids in my graduating class, maybe 58, something along those lines. Family was amazing. I mean, my family, incredible. They instilled the most incredible values in me, amazing grandparents, your typical middle-class family. I think my mom worked at Costco for 35 years. My dad worked at the Corcoran State Prison for 25 years, I believe. And, wow. They did, as I look back, they did everything that they possibly could to provide the best opportunities for us, to teach us about money, to teach us about budgeting. Times were a lot different. We didn't grow up with a ton of money, but I definitely learned the value of working and the tools, the tool that money is and what it can unlock if you were to, expand your mind and see that there is a lot more out there than this little bubble, that we grew up in. So yeah, I had no complaints on early childhood. Played soccer, traveled the United States, ended up traveling the world playing soccer, and it was just an incredible childhood.
Man, there's so many questions out of that, man. That's really good. I've got 2 little girls, and sometimes they say the hardest part of parenting is just don't mess it up. So your kid will be naturally creative, and your kid will have natural proclivities like you do. Like, you're an incredible creator, and obviously you have an incredible work ethic, and that was passed down traditionally from your parents. So when you're a freshman in high school, you believed that you were going to be a millionaire. You just believed it. Like, nobody told you you couldn't. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I've always thought it was interesting when you read these typical come up stories of teachers and parents telling you that you're never going to be anything. I had the exact opposite experience where teachers, friends, family always were just instilling so much confidence in me that I had something. Right? I wasn't the smartest in terms of school stuff. I didn't love school. I'll be quite honest with you. I just didn't really pay too much attention to it. I would, with Yeah, I mean, I was not the smartest in school. I tried relatively hard just to make sure that I got these grades because I knew that I wanted to go to college. But at the end of the day, I had this the best way I can describe it, whether I was at highs of my life or lows of my life, was there was never a moment where I did not believe that I was going to be one of the most successful people in the world. I still believe it till this day. I still have this overwhelming sense of like this aura about me that it doesn't matter if I'm at this low. It doesn't matter if I'm experiencing, sickness and health and some of the things that happened later down the road where my life completely got turned upside down. It didn't matter. Or if I was working a job that I knew I didn't want to stay at, serving takeout, selling used cars, doing real estate, cold calling, stuff that just was, in the trench type of work for $11, $12 an hour. I always knew that there would be a point where I was going to have an opportunity, a true opportunity that I was going to create that was going to change my life forever. And I think that if more people thought this way, and more people were open to this type of thinking, that when that opportunity does present itself, and it's not just going to present itself from, out of thin air, you have to go out there and create these opportunities, shake hands, meet people, try and start things, fail at things, not be afraid to fail at things, get used to people saying no to you, because when that one yes comes, when that one business kicks off, when that one opportunity is there, you have to be able to go all in and recognize that you have a short window of time to expedite compounding, right? Like expedite, go from 0 to 10,000, 10,000 to 100,000, 100,000 to a million. And why not think bigger when, why not think bigger? So that's my kind of my mindset. It's always been there. It definitely wasn't as flushed out and as well thought out as it was now, but I do go back and recognize, and recall conversations with people that were like, hey man, like, why aren't you stressed out? I was on EBT, food stamps, in college because I was helping to pay for school. Again, my family doesn't come from a ton of money. And so, yeah, like I was a little embarrassed about stuff like that, where I just didn't have a ton of money, at certain points in my life, but it didn't ever stop me from, believing wholeheartedly deep down and manifesting this future, that ended up, where we're at today.
Blake, that is so good. Do you think, I mean, did you have a mentor along the way, or do you attribute a lot of this to like a God-given gift of mindset, or do you attribute a lot of it to just being in this secure, loving home that no matter what you did, how well you succeeded or how bad you failed, somebody always loved you. Like you always had somebody to fall back on, and that's why you just kind of knew. Like it wasn't like it wasn't like this upcoming story. It was just like this, you had this strong basis. And where I'm going with this is there's a really good book by Malcolm Gladwell called David and Goliath. And he talks about how like a really, really high percentage, I forget the exact percentage, a really high percentage of very, very wealthy people in the United States had a learning disability as a kid. And it has nothing to do with the learning disability. It has everything to do with overcoming hard stuff. Because also a really, really high percentage of prison inmates had a learning disability as a kid. And so a lot of it is the structure that you grew up in. So if you have a great family structure and you have a learning disability, you just learn how to fail, and then you're encouraged to like fail again. But if you go through your whole life and you've never had to fail at something, and you become an adult and now failure looks you in the eyes, it's hard to overcome. And so I'm projecting on you. So is this supposed to be a question? But it sounds like due to the situation that you grew up in with loving family, grandparents and parents, it didn't matter how much money you had. What mattered was like that you knew that they were going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a few things to unpack there. I absolutely believe that what I have is a God-given talent. It is me.
Yeah.
In every aspect of my personality. It's all come to a head for me to be a successful business owner, to be a leader, to truly be a leader in every sense of the word, from business to faith to being a family man, and how I live my life, my principles. And then what helps is now in this technology day and age, having and building an audience and sharing what I actually believe. And so whether I'm not forcing my thoughts, beliefs, leadership, anything on anybody, but what I'm saying is resonating with people. What I'm saying is relating with people. I do think that people over embellish sometimes, having a difficult and terrible come up. And
Mm,
look, at the end of the
mm,
day, everybody has problems and everybody has stuff. I deal with problems all the time. I have insecurities. I have things that I am not good at, things that I need to be better at. I was, misdiagnosed in college. They told me that I had 10 years to live when I was 20 years old in
wow.
college. Was wildly underweight, migraines every day, not processing and digesting food. Doctors every single week, every single weekend, in and out of the hospitals, all that stuff, but still, still a smile on my face, still pushing forward. And yeah, along the way, I did have mentors and I had people that believed in me and that
Mm,
were successful outside of just my parents. I would put myself in environments where I'm a talker, and so if I found somebody, and I would learn skills that were of value to people. So whether it was editing videos, whether it was creating, being able to design clothing and actually produce, manufacture clothing, whatever it may be at any point in time, I would offer these skill sets to people that I wanted to learn from, and in return ask for nothing. And what it turned into was me learning this massive lesson in life, one of the most important lessons that I've learned to date. And I preach this all the time. If you want to see wild 100, 1,000, 10,000 X returns in your life, then give without asking for anything in return. Give
mm,
out of the kindness of your heart. Go and really give value to people. Learn
mm,
a skill that you can give value to somebody, and in return, don't ask for anything. And what you're going to find is, uh, you know, after the first time, after the second time, after the third time, these folks are going to come back to you and say, "Man, this kid's amazing. This young man right here has added a lot of value to my life. What can I do to help you out? You want to learn about real estate? Let me tell you about real estate. Here's
mm,
where you need to invest. Here's the secrets." And what you do there, with mentors, and I tell people this all the time: pay for mentors or find mentors or give value to mentors, because these folks are going to give you 10 years of life experience and business experience, or whatever you're trying to pursue, dwindled down into only a couple hours of conversation. You will skip
mm,
10 years of mistakes and hardship and all this stuff that they've learned by simply having mentors. So yeah, it was a combination of, I'm saying this in a longer roundabout way, a combination of having this God-given talent, finding mentors, and taking these bits and pieces of knowledge. Like one of the most important pieces of knowledge that I learned from one of my mentors, who my first mentor that I really remember, truly looking up to, and he unfortunately killed himself when I was, I think it was
mm.
19 years old, freshman in college. I came home from summer, and he had
Man, I'm
taken his own
sorry.
life. But no, it's okay. He's a great dude, and we all just we struggle, and sometimes it's overwhelming for folks. But he was a fantastic business leader. Like, he was a rock star. I think he sold the most houses for Keller Williams in the United States with his team, and he was in Visalia, Tulare, California, middle of nowhere, right? So
Yeah.
he had built something special. And one thing he told me was, take risks early and often at this age. Do not be afraid to fail. And I said, well, I don't have that much money. I don't have this. I won't have a place to go. I'm already like gonna probably have to move back in with my parents. So like, you know, I have a lot to lose. He goes, no, you have nothing to lose, because you already know what it's like to, you know what your baseline is. You know that you have a family that's going to allow you to move back in if shit hits the fan. You know that, um, you know, you know that what it's like to live frugally off of not too much money, and how to build businesses scrappy guerrilla warfare style. You know how to get in the trenches of these things, and go build a startup, build a business without having to go fundraise, really just doing it by yourself. So all that to say, like, that was some of the biggest lessons I learned in this pivotal part of my life, which would transition into me being the person that I am today.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So that's a lot. And I didn't want this podcast to be about nature versus nurture, obviously. But thank you for thank you for indulging me there. Now let's fast forward to around 2020, right? So, how old are you? How old are you now? And then kind of give me an idea of like from the time you graduated high school until 2020 when you really started to build a lot of momentum. What did that time frame look like?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm 26 years old now.
Okay.
I I was just looking again at this picture. I've got, you know how iPhone sends you recommended photos from the past, and it's like, hey,
Yeah.
here's this screenshot album from 2020. Well, on my birthday, March 29, 2021 was the day that I became a liquid millionaire. I had a screenshot. It was coincidentally, I was 23, turning 24 at the time, so that was uh, interesting time there. But leading up to that, from high school through college, I went to school at Cal Lutheran University to play soccer. Quit within the first couple of weeks. Just was so burnt out of doing travel soccer for so long.
Mhm.
Had dedicated my life to it. And to be honest with you, I wanted to enjoy college. I wanted to enjoy the experience, meet new people, go to the parties, and I didn't want to be feeling like forced to play sports. Still, I had the option. I was on an academic, a form of an academic scholarship, but still had to,
Mhm.
obviously take out student loans. And this is right around the time that I found out that I was sick. Like I'd already been underweight. I was always undersized, and then we start going to different doctors. And to make a long story short,
Mhm.
it was stomach diseases, it was liver diseases, it was autoimmune diseases, and for a short period of time there, I went to one of the nicest hospitals in Los Angeles. I went to Cedar Sinai, which is
Yeah.
like pretty world renowned hospital, and they did a liver biopsy. Where they shoot a needle through your rib cage, pull a piece of your liver out, and test it. And the diagnosis was a very rare but life threatening liver disease with very low life expectancy, about anywhere between, I think it was like 8 to 12 years, average of 10 years once you find out that you have it. And so at this point, I am not really doing anything entrepreneurial. I go into a rut. I was sick, feeling sick, looking sick,
Mhm.
depressed, first time really dealing with depression. No, started kind of reverting to drugs and alcohol because I just, almost to really drown out the
Mhm.
the pain and like fear and all these things that I was experiencing. It's difficult being that age and feeling like you had the world in front of you, and then seeing your mom and dad just weeping over what do we do, we don't have the money to pay for a bunch of these bills. We
Mhm.
don't know if this is right, so we kept trying and kept trying, and really went down the route of natural path, medicine, and more naturally healing your body. Started exploring different doctors, and the long story short was I was able to really, with diet, brain training, going completely sober, I was able to really get healthy for the first time in my life. Get very clear brain. I was dealing with such bad brain fog. I didn't even know what it was. I couldn't look people in the eyes. I was spiraling down to this person that was just a sickly person.
Mhm.
And so once that kind of happened, though, and then we go up to Stanford, and I got another diagnosis on the liver, and he says, no, that's not what it is. It's definitely some form of liver issues, but you're I wouldn't put a 10-year life expectancy on it. So now I've been given the second chance in my mind, right? Like this. I've already started getting healthy. My brain's feeling good. My body's feeling good. I'm under the belief that I'm not going to have a short life expectancy. So now I look at this as an opportunity. I'm like, I'm going to go get my master's degree. I'm going to start businesses. I'm going all in again. What happened to this passionate kid that was a business driven,
Oh,
kid just a couple years ago? And after that, I started working at a at what was it called? It's called Hub 101, but it was an entrepreneurship center through our school. And so I was just working the front desk, but I was starting to meet a lot of people that were building a lot of cool things, a lot of bad things, a lot of just building. And when you're
Yeah.
around people like that, your mind starts firing off ideas again. So I started building, a couple of companies. I had like a little app that failed that was for people that had celiac disease. I had a clothing company that failed that was for people that enjoy extreme sports. And along the way, I'm also working odds and ends jobs. I was selling, again, selling or helping with cold calling for a real estate agent. I was selling used cars at a Ford dealership, and was also working at a restaurant called Wood Ranch, and selling and was serving takeout food. This leads into so I graduate in 2019, do a jump in the MBA program for my degree was in international business. My master's is in enterprise innovation and entrepreneurship. And they were trying to get me to do it for 2 years, and I'm like, can I just jam in as many classes as possible? Like, I just want to get done with this thing. It's been a goal of mine. I don't want to dilly dally, and let's just do this. So I finished that in about a year, and that leads us into about March 2020, where I got laid off. My last job was serving the takeout food, so I got laid off doing that. We started getting in. Luckily, had EBT to kind of help with food because before we were just just eating food at the restaurant, on our breaks, just to, it was nice. It was a good gig.
Yeah.
We weren't getting paid too much, but we were getting free chicken and ribs. So it was nice.
Mhm.
But so now I'm living in an apartment in Thousand Oaks. I've got, I don't know, 5 or 6 roommates. We're in a 2-bed, kind of just rotating around. And I say that not in like a negative way. It was one of the best times of my life because, you're with your best friends, you're surfing, you don't have any responsibilities. I just finished my school, I got laid off, and we're all kind of sitting there like this is kind of the life a little bit, and I was so one of the reasons why I think I was so successful during this time and how I just won million X to my life was I was so optimistic during a time when everybody was pessimistic. It was all about sitting around watching the news and complaining and watching Tiger King and we're all going to die and you can't travel ever again. And we're never going to be able to leave our house. I was on the exact opposite, wavelength. I was on, hey, guys, let's go to the park today. Let's go throw the frisbee. Let's go to the beach. Let's sneak down there when nobody's looking. Let's go grab a pack of beers, a football, and let's go let's enjoy this one time where we may not ever be living in a time like this again. In fact,
Yeah.
one of the recurring thoughts that was happening in my head was, which really helped me transition into going all in on business during this time, was this is the first opportunity in my lifetime and very likely your lifetime and maybe in my kid's lifetime where the world is standing still and the playing field is level. And so when I recognized that the playing field was level and that everybody was kind of sitting around doom and gloom and not working, I saw it as the opportunity to get the biggest leg up on any competition that anybody can have right now and legitimately above everybody else. And so I remember vividly one day, and cut me off if I'm talking too long, but
Now keep going, man. You remind me of Taylor Swift a little bit.
there you go. I do remember this very vividly. One day, we get back from hanging out. All my buddies that were surfers, lifeguards, didn't go to college. They really had no in my opinion, they were not the investor, day trader, stock market type of people. I've known them my whole life now, and I'm like, this is not you. But they come up to me asking me about investing and trading in stocks. I'd always been involved in the markets. I'd always been interested in real estate and stocks and crypto. So I had my finger on the pulse, but I wasn't by any means the greatest trader of all time. Well, they start asking me, hey, well, we got $1,400. We got a stimulus check. How do we get rich? And it clicked for me. How many other people are thinking this exact same thing? How many other people can I relate to that are wondering, what can we do with our money? We have an opportunity here. They're recognizing it. And so that's when I started my first business with a partner of mine. It was an online community that was based around investing, trading, stocks, crypto, all things like that. It was a low ticket subscription, so it was like anywhere between $20, $40, $60 a month. And we were just essentially connecting people that were experts in the equities markets with people that wanted to learn about about trading and
Oh, wow.
being the arbitrator, just being the middleman. And so and I started driving traffic and building, that's how I got my name, Mr. 4 to 8, was because I was now all of a sudden trading stocks from pre-market opening from 4 a.m. to when the after hours would close at 8 p.m. So I was Mr. 4 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Ah,
That's where the name comes from. And so, yeah, that built out. That business ended up going on and making a lot of money. But I unfortunately was kind of bullied out of that business. And
mm,
it was, I get a letter from a lawyer that says it's a now single member LLC. This kid was my best friend. Now we don't talk anymore. And quite honestly, that was an 8-figure business that I built that I
right.
didn't basically get any money from. So that was brutal. So I went on and built another one, the exact same model, did it again, and built another multi 7-figure business doing the exact same thing. And that's when I began investing in real estate, scaling. I tried, and we can get into more weeds, but that's kind of the gist
Yeah.
of how this whole thing took off, and then that's how the real estate thing ended up starting as well.
Yeah. So if I were to synapse that, COVID gave you a time to just be and think, and then you created out of that. Obviously, like if you were busy doing takeout food, you wouldn't have the maybe the mental bandwidth to get that creativity. So in a lot of ways, it was a gift to you, and so you took that time, you created this stock market arbitrage model, and because you built it from scratch, you knew how to build another product just like it. And
Yep.
so, I mean, that's a good thing. Like, there's a lot of things that lawyers can take from you, but what's between your ears and what's in your heart, they can't take that. So
Right.
it sounds like you made lemonade out of some sour lemons. Yeah, man. So that's good stuff. So now you're in the short-term rental space. You're in the Airbnb space. So this is what, 21, 22?
Yeah, 2021 is when I started getting into short-term rentals, and not just short-term rentals. I started with Section 8, single-family investing, duplexes, um, you know, anything, just long-term rentals in general, just with not Section 8, normal
Yeah.
clients, or normal I want to say like hosting and guesting now that I'm so in this short-term rental space. But yeah, your normal everyday folk living in long-term rentals, but
Yeah.
it was not for me. I still own those properties. They still cash flow, but it wasn't the cash flow that I was looking for. I'm somebody that was now in a, recognizing the position that I'm in. There's a lot of people that get rich from tech and from building companies, but there's not a lot of people that become wealthy after that, if that makes sense. And I didn't want to be one of those. I knew that my lifestyle that I wanted to live would cost about, living in Southern California, living in Florida, or,
Mm,
having this lifestyle I wanted was going to cost me about $50,000 a month, my dream lifestyle, right?
mm,
And then that includes me really going down to the nitty gritty, writing down how many kids I want to have, what kind of school they want to go to, how much it's going to cost, how much is a
mm,
car payment going to be, how much is my mortgage with, this and that. So I really wrote out what my life wants to, what I want it to look like. Ideally, I want to make as much money as possible, just because the more money I make, the more I can give, the more I can create, a lot of those things. But this was the baseline. So how do I now transition, knowing that this business, the stock market world that I was in may not last forever? Where do you go from here? And on top of that, by the way, they're expecting me to pay millions and millions of dollars of taxes every single year. So my
mm.
answer to this was investing in short-term rentals and and really building a portfolio that's going to mitigate my taxes, create massive cash flow, create appreciation. Sorry, let me mute this phone. Create appreciation for me, and also be building equity so I can do cash out refinances and then go get more and more properties down the line. So this was my coup de grace. This was my winner, my horse that was winning the race, and it has not steered me wrong yet. We built out an amazing business, own some amazing properties, rental
Yeah.
arbitrage on a lot of properties as well, and it has been without a doubt the reason why I'm so passionate about it, besides all the money stuff, is I've been able to buy my time back. When I was doing the stock stuff and building that business, I was very happily not in great shape again. I was very happily not eating all the time, very happily not sleeping all the time, because I was in grind mode. I was in trench mode,
Yeah.
and I was trading time for money on a different scale. And you have to recognize that sometimes you just have to do that. in order to get to where you want to be. So a couple years of grinding and then a couple years of good investing. And now I've set myself up for the rest of my life. So I wouldn't take back anything that I did or any way that I chose to invest. And I just hope to continue to build out an Airbnb model and coach and teach more people about this because this is an opportunity that I truly wholeheartedly believe is not going anywhere.
So do you mind like going into a deal or maybe your first
Sure.
deal? Like, did you start out and buy your first property, or did you start out in arbitrage? And tell me a little bit about like maybe your favorite deal or a deal that didn't go well in either one of those two scenarios.
Sure. And this is going over short-term rentals, correct?
Yeah, short-term rentals for
Yep.
sure.
Okay. So one thing that I know a lot of online creators and gurus and coaches, they really want to try and relate with you by kind of saying, hey, this is where I was at. I started with zero. Then I got my first property. I house hacked. I got a 3.5% on an FHA, right? Mine's going to be not as relatable, but I've learned to invest in many different styles. But the true honest story is I was already a multimillionaire liquid when I began investing in short-term rentals. I'd been investing in real estate before and buying these cheaper properties, but I had an idea in my head of what I wanted to do. I wanted to invest in luxury short-term rentals because I was in a very unique position. I have the capital to do so. I have extremely high cash flow coming in every single month from my other businesses and ventures and social media. So I could go quantity over quality, or I can go quality over
Sure.
quantity. And so I opted for the latter, and I began investing out of state. I'd already been investing in North Carolina for my long-term rentals. So I tried my hand at Florida, and my first deals I bought them in 2021 within just a couple days of each other. They're actually next door to each other. There's one house in between them, but they're two houses down from each other. I found an area that I liked, which was this panhandle of Florida, because people had been, I did not just go to, let me put in perspective. I didn't just go spend a bunch of money, hundreds of thousands, or I think I ended up probably coming out of pocket over $1 million on those two properties. I did not just willy-nilly choose a location, throw a dart at the wall. I was paying for the top mentors in the short-term rental space to coach me and guide me and walk me through how to do research. I'd been doing this for over a year. So I had already been every single day, or at least a couple times a week, looking and scouting for properties, knowing what the end goal was. And I wanted to be able to do it by myself so that I could, not have to. The goal with mentorship and with anything is to give a man, don't give a man a fish, teach him how to fish so that they can do it forever. And so I wanted to learn how to fish, not only just fish. I wanted to cast out nets everywhere and start making some real money. So, once I learned about this market in the panhandle of Florida, I find two opportunities that I couldn't pass up. It was scary. I was terrified. I remember feeling so sick, not sending over the money for the wire, but sending over the offers or accepting the offers to go under contract. Because I think one of the houses was they wanted 2.1 and I got it for 1.67 or 1.69. I could butcher the numbers. And then the other one was they wanted 3.2 and I got it for I can't remember, 2.7, 2.8, something along there. And my terms weren't great because at the time I didn't have 2 years of tax history. So I've got to go do creative financing in a time where people are getting 3% interest rates. I'm at 5.5% interest rates. I don't know anything really too much about where the interest market's going to go. And so I'm making this big bet on my life, but I kept thinking over and over to that quote that my original mentor had said: take big risks, take big risks early, and make sure that they're calculated, though, right? And so this was a very calculated risk. Bought these two properties. One of them ends up being my best property ever. One of them ends up being my worst headache and my worst nightmare I've ever had in my life. Yeah, that helped grow my thesis out to, kind of like what you do with your investing, choosing a couple of core locations, building up the right teams, operations, and everything there, so that I'm not spending my whole days managing Airbnbs. Between hiring out my mom and my dad and other people in our business, I may be, having to handle 15 to 20 minutes of making big decisions each week, and everything else is automated.
Yeah. So which one of those two was your best producer?
The best producer was the more expensive one.
The big one.
It's comes up on the first page on Airbnb. They use it. VRBO uses it for ads. Like, it's a absolutely gorgeous house. It's already appreciated in value just based on what we're seeing in the area with sales and stuff. It's
Sure.
appreciated probably about $700,000 to $800,000 just in a couple of years, and it makes 300 and about is it 370,000 or close to 400,000 a year, that
Wow.
property. So in revenue, gross revenue. The other
That's,
property was horror story time. Had a pool on the roof, and that house, we for the last 2 years, to make a very long and expensive and nightmarish story small, it we could not ever get it to hold water. It always leaked no matter what we did. We tried everything. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this, not including the $10,000 a month mortgage and expenses to keep the lights on while this property is not renting. We remodeled a lot of things in the house. I'm into this house for a lot of money,
yeah.
and couldn't get it to work. So finally, what we just did is we went over the pool. Like, we literally just went over it, built a deck outside. So now it's a deck over top of a pool. That was one of the big selling factors of the house. But the great news is it is in an area where people get together with a lot of families, and they come all year long except for 1 to 2 months out of the year. And this house is one of the few that sleeps. I think it has seven bedrooms, which is big. Sleeps, in the mid 20s, 20, 24, 25 people. So that's the good news about this property. And so we expect in this next year, now that we just went live with it, it's already getting a lot of bookings. It's not making as much as we pro forma'd, obviously, because it doesn't have a pool on the roof anymore. But we did add some really cool features to it. But that's the true risk of this business. And if I did not have a high cash flowing business to fund this operation, I wasn't feeling, honestly, like, with the capital that I was bringing in, I wasn't feeling the hit every single month. But I just know that a lot of people, 99% of people would have not been able to keep the house.
Yeah.
So,
You
good
gave
lesson
up.
there. Don't buy a pool on a roof of a house.
Unless it's contained.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good advice. So fast forward to today. How many properties you have today? And kind of give us an
So
idea of, like, what your revenues are from a short-term rental standpoint.
right. Yeah. So there was a point in this. So one of the things that I do also is teach people about Airbnbs, right? And how to do a lot of different things, from co-hosting to Airbnb rental arbitrage to purchasing properties. I'm in a position now where I no longer do the co-hosting. I never personally did co-hosting, but I don't do the arbitrage anymore. I have no active arbitrage properties, because it no longer makes sense for me to go acquire properties that are going to make me just nickels and dimes in the grand scheme of what I'm building out right now. But it is a great way for people to get started. So I do teach about all of it. But as of now, from the ownership side of things, I own 10, is it 10 or 11 now? 10 or 11 short-term rentals, with one that's a new build that's in the Smoky Mountains that's going to be finished in the next 2-3 weeks. And so that'll go live as well. And then I'm under contract currently for a project I can't speak too much on, but if it goes through, it's going to be pretty major. It's essentially, we're going to run it like it's short-term rentals, but it's a boutique hotel. So it'll be my first actual hotel. And then you and I co-list that property that I own as well. So I'm in that, I think, at 11-ish range. We'll call it 11-ish. I haven't checked the numbers in a while, but
That's all good.
from a revenue perspective, these properties bring in a total of $2.2 million per year in revenue. And then from a profit perspective, so that's about $175,000 a month in revenue. Then our our operating profit every single month is anywhere between $70,000 to $80,000 on average. During the summer months, we're going to have these big months of like 120, 130,000. In the winter months, you have months that barely make anything. But on average, we're in that about 75,000 a month profit range.
What an incredible business. And then obviously you get depreciation and principal pay down, and that's just the cash flow part of it, right?
Right.
And so you got appreciation in that too. So, obviously you've got an incredible gift for communication and teaching. And this has been an awesome time. If folks want to get in touch with you, like you teach a lot about short-term rental arbitrage, you teach a lot about short-term rental acquisition, how to properly decorate it, communicate, the whole 9 yards, A to Z. You can teach people how to get into this business. And that's a big part of your business today. So if people want to get in touch with you and learn more, what would be the best ways to do that?
Yeah, the best way without a doubt would be reaching out to me on Instagram. You can find me at Mr. 4 to 8. That's spelled out MrFourToeight. I personally answer all of my direct messages. So I see everything, I hear everything. And yeah, I mean, my goal now is to help as many folks that are unhappy, or let me change this. My goal is to help as many folks that are working 9-to-5 jobs, that are currently trading time for money. I want to help them buy their time back so that they can do whatever it is that they want. For me, I want to, today, when we get off this call, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to create some content. I'm going to go surfing, go hang out with a buddy. I have a doctor's appointment today in LA. So I have this free time that I'm able to do what it is that I want. And I want other people to be able to experience this. And the amazing thing is, you're only 1 to 2 Airbnbs away from absolutely changing your life. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I've seen it happen over and over again. I've taught thousands of students. This is real. It's very possible. Just imagine whether it's through co-hosting and just taking 20% and doing the legwork, and that's no risk to you, or doing rental arbitrage. You can start with just a couple $1,000s. You don't need great personal credit, and you can rent out a property, sublease it on Airbnb, and take all the profit in between. Make an extra $2,000 a month. Make an extra $4,000 a month. That literally would have helped me out so much in a time where I've been where you're at. I don't come from a wealthy family. I don't come from, having a ton, and so I know what it's like to be in a position where an extra $2,000-$3,000 a month would literally help me eat, would help me pay for rent, and then have some extra money to go invest in whatever I'd like to, or put it to work. Right. And so this is the journey that I'm on. This is the mission that I preach. And along the way, I hope that, people, I do share my lifestyle. I share the things that I'm interested in as well. And I hope that they, just enjoy my message. And if I can continue to just change a couple people's lives, at a time, then I'm going to do so.
Man, it sounds like your heart's definitely in the right place. If you can just allow people to experience a touch of what you've experienced, and maybe more, and maybe exactly what you've experienced, you want to touch as many people as you possibly can, which is a great heart. A lot of folks get into this just for, hey, I'm going to achieve this financial goal. But at the end of the day, it can sometimes be a little empty. But it sounds like, you've got more than a one-pronged goal. Like, one of your goals is to actually help as many people as you possibly can, that's incredible. Great heart, man.
I appreciate it, Mark.
Yeah, you're definitely welcome. Well, man, this has been an absolute pleasure, and it's been great. And thank you for your time. And let's talk again soon.
Sounds good, brother. Thank you.